Hello and welcome to Youth Open Shop Live. My name's Ryan. I'm here with Kirsty and JP, and we're here to answer your questions and help you learn more about bikes. We're here at the Ogden Bicycle Collective today, and in this stream, we're going to be going over how to dismantle, take apart, and put back together your bike. Now, this is a weekly stream that we do every Tuesday at 11 a.m., and you can find those links on Instagram, on our website, and yeah, sign up for our newsletter, all that. But this is held on Zoom, and this is a Q&A. So if you have questions, you can go to the Zoom Q&A section and submit your question. Or let's say you're watching this after the fact. Well, hello, thank you for watching. We still take questions, and if you have a question, whether it's about the topic we're talking about today or if it's some other bike-related thing, you can go to the links that we have below. Now, they should be right around here. The first one is my email address, and we'll go over that in a second. The second one, tiny.cc/YOS-LQuestion, is you enter that into the browser and you'll be able to go and submit your question. If you want to sign up for our newsletter to get announcements, you can go to tiny.cc/BC newsletter. BC stands for Bicycle Collective. You probably already knew that. Anyway, the stream every week, Tuesday at 11 a.m. After the fact, we'll put it either on Instagram, and we're working on other platforms as well where we can put the streams. So last week we went over checking a bike and make sure it was all good. The bike we actually checked was not good. The frame had some damage to it that meant that it wasn't safe to ride. So I got a new bike. This is a purple Pacific Chromium. I think that's what it's called. So anyway, it says Chromium right here on the frame. And this is a bike that we're going to get ready so that we can donate it. That's what we do here. So last week I actually promised that we were going to go over how to change a flat. We still will. Tune in next week. It's a promise. We'll change that flat. So this one's got two of them. We'll only change one though. But what's going to happen is we're going to get this bike ready and we're going to show you how to take it all apart, put it back together. Well, not all apart, just the basic stuff, the stuff that you would probably need to take apart and put together at home. Before we get into it though, we'd like to go over a couple of safety rules. And we go over them more in more detail in previous episodes and soon on our website where we'll have them posted. But here are the basics. First up, internet safety. Now, the internet safety is important because we're on the internet now, and you need to be safe on the internet. First rule is my favorite. Be excellent to each other. Always be kind, positive. Don't engage people that are trying to bring you down. Next up, guard your privacy. If you submit a question here, submit it with your first name, your last initial, and then maybe the area where you live. For example, I would be Ryan B. from Bountiful, Utah. And then I would submit my question, and then we'd answer it here on the stream. Now, if you would like to submit a photo, that's why my email was there, ryan@bicyclecollective.org. If you would like to submit a photo, we ask that you do it against a blank background, whether that's against a wall, or the pavement, or your yard, or the side of your house. We ask that that not have personal information like your face or your house number on your mailbox or your little brother who photobombed your photo. So that way we can show it on stream and show your bike and show your bike problem that you're having. And then finally, whenever you're posting anything on the internet, if you're under the age of 18, always ask a parent or a legal guardian for permission. Make sure it's all right that you're posting or that you're sending things to Youth Open Shop Live. So yeah, that's internet safety. Next up, we've got work safety. Now, work safety is very important. We're here in the shop, you come in, there's work safety rules when you're at home. Also keep safety in mind. First rule is use the right tool for the job. Today, we're going to be using wrenches. If you don't have a set of different size wrenches like this one, you can use an adjustable wrench. And we'll go over more about the right tool while we're working on the bike. But always use the right tool for the job. Next up, ask for help. If you need help holding something down or holding something still or lifting a bike or knowing how to use a tool that you haven't used before, always ask for help. There's always someone that's willing to help and always someone that knows how to help you. Now, sometimes you have to go searching, but don't worry. People are out there and they want to help. If you don't know how to do something, always look it up online. Finally, we'll try not to do dangerous things, but that doesn't mean accidents don't happen. You should the final rule, always keep safety in mind. Keep your safety, the safety of others, safety of everything around you. Always keep it in mind. Make sure that you're using the tool correctly and that you're not going to accidentally hurt yourself or someone or something else in the process. All right, so let's get on into it. We're going to take apart this bike and we're going to figure out how to put it back together afterwards. Now this is important. Let's say you want to put your bike in a car, or you need to change the tire, or you need to dismantle a bike because you're taking it apart to, I don't know, you could make a lamp out of it. You could make like a little picture hanger out of the wheel. I've seen that done, that's cool. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a wrench and we're going to loosen the nuts. This bike doesn't have a quick release. Quick release refers to this little lever. Now this lever here is, when it's in the down position, it's closed. When you flip it up, it's loose. And that's how, and there's a lot of bikes, newer bikes especially, will have that on the front axle. This is an older bike, so it only has nuts on the axle itself. But that's okay, because we've got a wrench. So I'm going to take the wrench, and now this is where we get into the right tool for the job. Now, it is possible to take off the nuts using a pair of pliers like this. But it is really easy to slip and to strip the nut. Now, stripping a nut is what you call it when the tool slips and shaves a little bit of the metal off of it. Right now it's a hexagonal, meaning it has 6 sides and they're all flat. But if I take the wrench and I'm trying to take it off and I keep slipping, it'll take a little bit of that metal off and then pretty soon it'll be perfectly round. And that's what it's called. It's been stripped, meaning it doesn't work like a normal tool should anymore. And that's no fun. So we're going to use the right tool. Use this adjustable wrench, adjust it to the right size, make it as tight as we can to get it on, and then we're going to turn it counterclockwise. Now, I'm behind the bike, so it's hard to tell what's counterclockwise, but I think it's this way. Let me get it. Oh no, I am going the wrong way. It is this way. Doesn't matter. Even if I were facing it, I always get it wrong. That's okay though. So I go ahead and I loosen it. You don't need to take it all the way off, just loosen it a bit. I'm going to turn the bike around. I'm going to loosen the other side. All right, so I've got that loosened. Now, this one's pretty tight in there. Sometimes it'll just pop off right when it's there. But this one's a bit in there tight. Oh, okay, we actually have a question. What do you do if the nut is stripped? And this is from Anonymous. You can also always submit your questions anonymously if you don't want to include your name. Forgot to mention that. Let's say the nut, oh, it just popped out. Let's pretend it didn't happen. We'll do that in a second. But if the nut is stripped, you can get a pair of locking pliers or, usually locking pliers is the best way to go. Usually that means you're going to have to replace the nut with a new one. And you can find those at the Home Depot or Lowe's or just anywhere that sells nuts and bolts. But make sure you get the right one. Now, to get it off, sometimes you have to be a little bit creative, but always be careful not to use a tool that will break the bike. Let's say you want to, I've seen people try to use power tools or even like hydraulic tools, the kind that you see in like race cars where they go woo, woo, and they take the wheel off really fast. I saw a guy came in once who tried doing that to his bicycle, and it snapped the axle of the wheel right in half, and we had to replace the whole thing. It was a very interesting 9 o'clock at night. So make sure that you use the right tool. Hand tools are usually more than enough. But let's say you can't get the strip nut off, you can always, and the locking pliers don't work. Sometimes you have to get a bit creative, but make sure that whatever you do, you don't harm the bike. You don't accidentally use too much force or do something that'll break it. If you do break it, don't worry. You can usually fix the problem. Just make sure that you might have to take it to someone who knows what they're doing, like a mechanic or a person who has a lot of experience with bikes, but it is possible to fix. Anyway, let's get back to it. So we're trying to pop this wheel out. What we're going to do is we're going to wiggle it. Now I have seen people try to get a hammer and hit it out. That's bad. Just wiggle it. Sometimes you have to wiggle it and push down quite a bit. Maybe loosen the nuts a little bit more. As I wiggle, I'm pushing downward. Sometimes you can have someone else help you by pulling apart the fork like this. But this one, it's like the sword and the stone, just lots of little wiggles. Man, does this one need to be unscrewed a little more? Ah, here's the problem. The washer had actually gotten stuck in there. All right, now brakes are interesting. This bike has a flat tube, but sometimes, oops, the wheel will get stuck inside the brakes. Now there's two ways to take it out. You can either release the wire. Sometimes there's a quick and easy way to release the wire, but on this bike there isn't one. So what you can do, you'd have to unscrew it, but what you can do is you can actually deflate the tire, pinch it together, and it'll just drop out. And there you go. Your wheel is off. Now you can put it aside, you can fix the tire, which we'll be doing next week. But for now, let's just go ahead and put it back. Pinch the tire back up so you can put it back on between the brakes. And then we're going to slot it in. Now it's very important to make sure that it's all the way back in. Now, I'm going to tighten both of the nuts with my fingers. There you go. And then I'm going to get the wrench again and tighten it the rest of the way up, turning it clockwise to tighten. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do the same to the back wheel. Now, I've already explained how to loosen the nuts and how to handle the brakes if you need to. But for the back wheel, there's a little extra step. This one has gears, as most bikes do. If it has gears, then the chain is around the gears, all you do is you loosen the nuts again. Let's see. All right, just loosen them. Again, you don't need to take them all the way off. Just make sure they're loose. And usually, the back wheel, it'll just spring out, and the gear will still be inside the loop of the chain. All you need to do is move the chain out of the way, and the wheel's out. All right. Now, if you have a bike with one gear, sometimes what you'll need to do is you'll need to slide the wheel forward, lift the chain off of the gears. Let me put that down for a second. Lift the chain off the gear, slide the wheel back, and then take the chain the rest of the way off. And next week I'll try to get a bike so that we can do that next week as well. But to put it back in, it's actually pretty easy. Sometimes you need help. This is called the derailleur, and this is called the derailleur arm, or the pulley arm. But we need to push it down so that way the chain has a lot of slack, so we can easily put the wheel back in. So what you do is you put the gear inside the loop of the chain, and then you take, hopefully you can see this, you put the chain on the gear like that. You just lift it up into where it goes. Now sometimes you'll need to ask someone for help to pull this downward. That's okay. It's always good to ask for help. But you're going to want to make sure that this side, the side with the gears, is all the way up in there, and then tighten the nut. Oops. Tighten it with your fingers at first, and we'll tighten it with a tool later. First, though, is we need to make sure that the wheel is straight up and down. Now, this side over here has a slide so it can wiggle back and forth. We want to make sure that it is perfectly centered. Well, close to perfect. Nothing's perfect, but close as we can get it. And then we're going to tighten this other side. Sometimes it's a lot easier if you put it down on the ground. I have it up in a stand, but all of this can be done without a stand, just on the ground. And this is one of those times where the stand might actually not be helping. So I tighten the nuts with my fingers first. And then I grab the wrench. This is a and there you go. All right. Oh, and this is actually leads up to a great question from Alice. I put my wheel back in and now my brakes rub. How can I fix that? Now there's lots of different reasons your brakes can rub, and we'll actually go over that in a stream in a few weeks. But the main reason, especially when you're taking your wheel on and off, this actually happened to my dad's bike. It wasn't shifting good and the brakes rubbed. The reason for that is because it wasn't in all the way. So if it's not in all the way, like this one might not be now, I'll put it on the ground, I'll loosen the nuts a little bit, wiggle the wheel, make sure it's up in there, all the way in there, and then I'll tighten them back up again. And that should help your brake problem. Of course, there's lots of other problems for rubbing brakes, but we'll go over that in another week. All right, so put that on, and now I'm going to go ahead and change the seat. All right, let's actually go over how to change the seat. There's lots of things you can dismantle on a bike, but today we're just going to do the tires and the seat. So this seat, all we need to do is we need to loosen this nut and bolt. A lot of bikes also have the quick release on the seat post, and that's a bit easier because you don't need a tool. But this one's got a nut and a bolt. So we're going to take it and we're going to turn it counterclockwise. This one's already a bit loose. That's okay. So now that we've loosened it, again, you don't need to take it all the way off. Just loosen it, and then you can slide it out. This one you can slide out. Sometimes it's really difficult. We put grease on this one earlier. Otherwise, you do kind of have to wiggle it back and forth. Again, use the right tool for the job. A lot of times wiggling is the right tool, because I have seen people also try to hit it with a hammer, and that's usually not great because you don't want to damage the frame or the seat. But this seat had a bit of a duct tape phase in its life. So what we're going to do is we're going to swap this seat out. Now to do that, there's lots of different kinds of seat posts. Oh, let me grab the other seat post. This one has a collar on it. Now this one is what's called an integrated seat post. All it has is a nut at the bottom, or excuse me, a bolt at the bottom, and you use an Allen wrench to turn it, and that'll loosen these little jaws here that'll release the seat. And then you slide the seat out. But this one has the two nuts on the side and a bolt that runs all the way through it. So we're just going to loosen one of the sides. And sometimes I'm just going to put this back in the bike so that way it's easier to hold. Because, you know, bikes were meant to hold on to the seat. Might as well use that to your advantage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, adjust the wrench to the right size, and turn it counterclockwise to loosen. I think I got too big of a wrench for this. That's okay. All right, so I just loosened it a couple turns, and now the seat will just slide off. And I've got myself a new seat right here. I'll just slide on, and then I'll tighten this back up again. All right, there you go. Now I'll tighten this up a little bit more, adjust it later on. You can also adjust its angle. Say if it's slanted too far downward or too far up, you can fix that. But yeah, excellent. Okay, and we've actually got a question. How do I remove the pedals on my bike? Now these pedals have a special rule with them. Most screws and most nuts, if you turn them counterclockwise, they loosen, and clockwise, they tighten. But pedals follow a special rule. Now, to loosen the pedals, this wrench, maybe if I turn the bike you can see it, this wrench is too wide and doesn't fit in that space there to loosen the pedal. So what I need is a thinner wrench. There is a special tool for that. Oh, I dropped it earlier. Oh, it's always important to hold on to your tools. But this one is really flat, because that'll reach right into it. It's also really long. This is a question I got last week, actually, when we talked about using a bigger wrench for more power or leverage. The longer the wrench, the more leverage you have. And this one is just enough leverage to loosen and tighten a pedal. And I got a question. Well, I don't have a pipe at home. How else can I get more leverage? There's lots of different tricks. But the most important trick is to not break your tools. I have in the past, I've broken lots of tools, and they've all been mine. Always be careful not to break other people's tools. Then you have to give them a new tool, and that's the good thing to do, but it's better not to break them in the first place. So let's say I need leverage to get this nut off of the bolt. Now, here's a trick that you can do. You can put, that in. Wait, let's see. There we go. You can interlock wrenches to make it longer. Or, like we used a pipe, you can just make sure that whatever you're using is strong enough to stand the force. This could probably stand the force of just what is required to take this nut off. But if I just put all my weight on it, I could easily just snap this wrench right in half. Or let's say the part you're trying to loosen. I've had a lot of experience where I've put the wrench onto this, because that's a pretty good way, but I used too much force and I snapped the quick release lever right in half. So always be careful not to break your tools, and you can get creative, but be careful, because I've also had a lot of experience almost breaking my knuckles when I had too much leverage and I slipped and all the skin on my knuckles. So always be careful. Anyway, back to the pedals. Now, this wrench is actually thin enough to fit in there. Now, the special rule with pedals, it's not clockwise and counterclockwise, but pedal backwards to loosen, pedal forwards to tighten. So let's pretend this wrench, I'm pedaling forwards with it. That tightens it. I pedal backwards, and that loosens it. Oh, again, be careful, because you see how it just slipped right there? That's a good way to lose the skin on your knuckles, so be careful. So anyway, you just tighten it. Now the reason this pedal wrench is so long is because this is how much force you need to have a properly tightened pedal. So you tighten it as much as you can with your hand to make sure it's all the way on there. All right, so that's how you take on and off the pedals. Excellent. So change the seat. That's all for the work portion. So what did we do? We took the wheels off and we put them back on. We took the seat off and we changed the seat. We put that all back together. We also quickly went over the pedals. Wasn't expecting to do that, but hey, you learned something new. So hopefully, if you did, I guess Zoom doesn't have like buttons, but submit a question. That's a great way to like the video. Submit a question, and then we'll answer it in the next stream, because we love getting your guys' questions. But before we get into more Q&A that we have this week, we'd like to invite you to follow us on our website, on our Instagram page, to be able to stay up to date for the new videos that are coming out. We have a new one each week, Tuesday at 11 a.m. And you can join us live, or you can watch us after the fact, post the videos to Instagram and to other platforms soon. And we have a newsletter that you can sign up for. And yeah, so keep an eye out for that stuff. And let's go ahead and get into the Q&A. So we have a question. This one is from Jason from Layton. It says, how do I change a tire that has solid rubber? Now next week we'll go into how to patch a tube, but there are some really kids bikes, old bikes that have just solid rubber in the tires. There's no tube. Now that it can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes you can wiggle it off. Other times I've had to cut them off with a saw, and that usually meant that we had to replace the whole wheel. So there is a trick to it. I don't have the details on the top of my head, but you can look it up online, how to change a solid rubber tire. You can take it into a mechanic, or as you can, I don't know if you can see them here, but we got lots of wheels just hanging from the ceiling here at the Bicycle Collective. You can call, make an appointment, come in, get some used parts. We got lots of those. That's where we got this seat here for this bike. It was a donation. The bike wasn't good, but the seat was, so we kept the seat and we're using it on this bike that we're going to donate to somebody. So yeah, that's what we got going on there. And we'll go over more on how to change a regular tire next week. And I'll actually do a little bit of research and learn more about solid rubber tires for next week's stream. All right, so that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. You guys, for now, get out there, go out, ride your bike, be safe, and have a great day.